I'd like to start today by telling you a story. A story about an employee at one of the retailers in our community. For the purposes of this presentation, we'll call him Joe. Now, Joe has been a dedicated employee for years. In the words of his supervisor, he never misses a day. He shows up with a smile, he helps wherever is needed, and he's respected and beloved by his fellow teammates. But Joe is experiencing a challenge that many of his coworkers don't know about. When he leaves his shift at the end of each day, he doesn't have a home to go back to. Now, Joe lives in his car currently in an area of Southern California with low affordable housing availability, where the process to obtain housing support is complicated and difficult to navigate. Joe's supervisor lets him use the bathroom facilities at the store now and again to take a makeshift shower if he needs to. Nights can get cold in the winter and space is tight. But Joe does his best. And that's what he's known for at the retailer where he works, always doing his best with any task that he's given. Now, the story of Joe is not as unique as you might think. It's the story of hundreds of thousands of people in our country who are part of the largest segment of the unhoused community, the working unhoused.
What is it like to raise a family when you have no home?
When you get $4, $5, $6 above minimum wage and you still can't find an affordable place to live, something is wrong.
No.
No one in America should have to work 40 hours a week and not be able to afford to live in the place that they work. We are the orphans of the American dream.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to a team with a combined 124 years of experience in the retail industry. Muhammad Ali of Stater Brothers Markets, Delton Schaefer of Albertson Safeway, Jennifer Oliveira of Good Food Holdings, Chris Connaughton of Gelson's Markets, Bobby Carter of Reyes Coca-Cola Bottling, and myself, Ashley Dawson of Ecos. Throughout our careers, we've all known and heard of stories like Joe's. These stories have moved us, touched our hearts, and driven us to want to bring this issue to your attention today.
So you just heard a story about a man named Joe, and that his situation may be more common than what you originally thought. It's estimated across this country there are 650,000 people living unhoused. If you had to guess how many of those people were working, what would your guess be? 10? Maybe 20%? In reality, that number is 53%. 53% of the unhoused in this country are currently working. And if we look just at retail, you'll see that 11% of them work at retail. These could be people working in our stores. It's nearly 40,000 people across the nation. These people are our colleagues, they're our coworkers, they're our employees, they're our friends, they're our family. And what's even more shocking is that 24% of the nation's workforce is behind on bills, and 32% of the nation's workforce runs out of money between paychecks. These people are all at risk of becoming like Joe, unhoused and employed. You may be asking yourself, what does this have to do with me? Or why should I care? Why should I care? Every day across the nation, there are headlines citing policies being enacted to tax businesses to solve societal problems. If we don't lead the change, this change will be led for us. Or we can just look at turnover. Turnover in our industry is a problem. If somebody stood up here and told you they had a solution to your turnover, would you listen? Would you care? Would you open your wallet? I'm going to leave you with one last statistic. If somebody is forced to leave their house due to financial constraints, they're 11 to 22% more likely to lose their job as well.
So, how did we get here? In the last 4 years, rent has increased by 25%. Housing cost has increased by 45%. And in essence, our income has stayed almost exactly the same. And that's why we have so many team members facing the same situation. With the middle class eroding, more and more of these problems are becoming to arise. We can no longer turn a blind eye to this situation, to one of our family members. So, why is getting permanent housing so difficult? Navigating the process of finding resource is quite complicated. I personally applied for low-income housing over 60 days ago, just to see how easy it would be. I have yet to hear anything back. I couldn't imagine if one of my family members was living on the street and waiting to hear back via email or phone call. Federal, local, regional, and county programs, they're pouring millions of dollars into these programs. But how do we access them? And let's imagine that Joe has actual access to the internet or access to a computer. Let's say he has both of these things. How does he gather up these resources? Navigating the complicated application process is almost impossible unless you've been trained on it. And through this process, we've learned that most people have to call human resource organizations more than 40 times before they can actually speak with somebody that helps. And most of these phone calls need to be done during business hours. That means on work breaks, lunch breaks, after work, before work, or on your days off. This can take a traumatic toll on your mental and physical health. On top of it, there are even more barriers for Joe. Some of these require pre-existing conditions, such as a severe mental disorder, perhaps a substance use problem, domestic violence situation, or a severe disability. So when we think about this, it's a really tough prospect. So now let's think about you having to go to work every day and doing your basic responsibilities at work. But by the end of the day, you're already thinking, where am I going to sleep tonight? Will I be safe? How can I shower? Your basic hygiene factors, which is your basic needs in life, are being compromised. So, do you feel comfortable speaking to your supervisor at work about this? It's a huge stigma that's attached, and what happens is homelessness can be painted with a broad stroke that can be very negative and create a terrible stigma at work. People are afraid. They don't want to talk about this with somebody at work because they're embarrassed, or it could possibly impact their financial security. And so think about the daunting task of going to your supervisor. Not only are you testing their trust, but you're also testing their trust in an industry where privacy and self-reliance is paramount. So as we consider Joe's problem, let's think about how we can support our colleagues and really genuinely think about how we can create an environment where our team members feel comfortable that they can talk to somebody about it in a judgment-free zone. And in the end, let's create a sanctuary for all of our family.
So now that we've talked about some of the issues that Joe faces, let's talk about how we can help Joe. We've developed 3 pillars that we believe, if you implement, will help Joe find the advocacy and support that he needs to find success. So the first pillar we've come up with is hiring an HR advocate. So this person would be a confidential pipeline of communication between Joe and the business. They would be able to help Joe navigate government agencies, private entities, and nonprofits to help put him in the correct programs to help him get financial support and housing support. This person would help Joe be able to navigate the process so it gets sped up. Currently, if Joe were able to find a program that he qualifies for, it could take 3 months to a year before he's placed in a permanent housing situation. The second pillar is a series of loans and grants. So these could either be employer funded or employee funded, with employees donating as little as $1 a month to participate in the program. So the first loan would be for temporary hardships. So natural disasters, fires, floods, and can also be used for one-time rent assistance to keep a housed employee from becoming unhoused. The second loan would be a security deposit loan. Now this loan would be transformational for somebody like Joe. With the help of the advocate, he could apply through the business to receive a loan, so he now has the funds to put down a deposit on an apartment. So Joe doesn't need to sleep in a car tonight, he can actually sleep in a bed. The third type would be a grant. So this would be like the security deposit, except now Joe doesn't have to pay it back. The third pillar is ancillary support costs. So the grocery industry is in a very unique business because we have access to food. So we can donate our short-coded food to actually our employees. All the food can be placed in the back of the stores, and then every night, an employee could be allowed at the end of their shift to take home a bag of groceries. The other thing that we can do is provide deeper discounts. So right now, employers offer anywhere from 5% up to 30%. We have one retailer in our community right now that's providing a 30% discount and letting their employees take home the short-coded food, and they estimate that they save their employees $400 to $500 a month. Now, imagine if you're Joe and you get to take home an additional $400 or $500, how much easier would it be to pay your rent and your utilities?
Now, we've established a logo to help visualize and communicate our approach. The initiatives we presented today fall under the One Roof approach. Now, the FIM acronym within the logo has been crafted and carefully designed to develop and provide housing, one roof, for associates that need it the most. Now, this logo is a symbol of love. It's a symbol of compassion. It's a symbol of caring. So now that we talked about the support that we can provide, Austin, we'll go with the video. So now that we've talked about how we can support, let's talk about the impact that this will have on our industry. We can measure this in 3 different ways. One, we'll be able to measure it through annual surveys given to those participants who will participate. And we can measure that through putting posters, after the surveys, putting posters in the break room, annual reminder during team weekly meetings, and of course, it will become part of the onboarding process. Secondly, we'll be able to determine employee retention, but most importantly, us as an industry will understand who's unhoused or who's at risk of losing their home. So now that Joe's part of the program, Joe has a housing advocate, someone that will help them get a home or find a home somewhere. Joe qualifies for a loan, so now he has a down payment for his house or apartment. And finally, Joe is receiving food donations at his store, so that way he's spending less money on food and more money towards housing. So ladies and gentlemen, if you support Joe, Joe is now thriving. Joe has that housing advocate, someone to reach out for support. He has financial backing, whether that's through housing grants or employee loans. And finally, Joe wants to work and he wants to be where he loves to work. And that's why we should all care about this problem.
This is the story that we want. A story of hope, joy, and support. This is the story that we want for all of the unhoused teammates that work for us. Now, there's one way that there are multiple ways that we need you to help us. We're gonna go down that list. Number one, we want you to find the number. In the next 48 hours, work with your teams and find the number of unhoused teammates that work for you. And when you find that number, challenge it. Asking for help is difficult, and the social stigma that unhoused people face is real. Then, implement one or more of the One Roof initiatives that we've proposed today. Hire or train someone in your HR department to be your housing advocate. Offer low-cost or no-interest loans and grants to your teammates. And then lastly, we're gonna provide you with some information that you can take back to your teams today that you can help provide housing resource information in the areas that you serve. And we have one last ask for you before we finish today. We want you to turn to the person next to you and challenge them. Challenge them to have 0 unhoused teammates on your teams the next time you guys meet. Let's make sure that everyone, just like Joe, has a home to go back to. And we'd like to thank you all very much and open up for any questions.
Hey, thank you. Nice job. Well, you guys tackled a tough topic, so nice job hitting that head on. Did you find any examples of companies out there that had success providing some of the programs that you were talking about? And can you share an example if you have one ready?
Yes, so there's one company that we talked to, it was Wellspring, correct, if I'm not mistaken, that already provides this kind of service. So they actually, I believe it's for about $5 a month per employee. They provide that service and provide the coordination for any of their employees who need housing already.
First of all, good job, you guys. I think in all the years that I've come to this, I don't think I've heard the concern of the employee like I've heard from you today. The question that I have is, what problems do you think chains will encounter when they even start to bring the idea of having an advocate, providing financial support for all those folks that don't have a place to live? What do the leaders of the organizations, what do you think they'll be faced with as they start to want to address this concern?
Well, I think there's going to be a fear of coming forward saying that you're homeless, right? Or you don't have a house. And I think, honestly, if we do something like I was speaking to about a survey, something that's confidential, something that goes through HR, I think within that industry or within that retail store, whoever it is going to have a sense of pride that we're taking care of our own first. And honestly, I think other retailers and other CPG companies are going to want to get on board. I mean, this is a systemic problem. This issue is rising, and it's time to step up and actually do something about it. And I know there's a lot of companies that are doing something about it, but it is becoming a bigger issue than we think. And it's going to be bigger in the next 5-10 years. So I think if we do something now as an industry, I think the employees and everybody will get on board, and it's a safer path for everybody.
Thank you. I just want to say, definitely a great topic and presentation. I just want to ask, have you guys thought about turning the warehouse or the parking lot into a living space for the employees?
We haven't. I don't think turning a parking lot into a living space might be the best image for the industry, but it is a thought though about warehousing maybe. But then again too, like I don't know if anyone in the room would actually want to become a landlord. There's plenty of programs that are available that we can access that has funding to help people already.
Congratulations, team. Am I up? Oh, sorry, Cynthia. Congratulations. This is a very sensitive topic today, and it tugs at the heartstrings, so thanks for bringing it up. Somebody asked about companies doing it, and I just wanted to share that I was a vendor for Denny's restaurants organizations for many years, and they are doing exactly what you're talking about, where employees can actually give $1 or $2 in their paychecks, and it's doing amazing, offering programs and things for homeless people that are not bringing the nightmare you might think of all the people flooding to your store to become an employee. It actually is doing amazing. They're having great results over many years now. So kudos.
Thank you.
Question here. This is a great topic you brought up. Have you seen these implemented in other industries successfully?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Any other industries that you have seen this is being implemented?
So we haven't seen this necessarily implemented in any other industries. This is something that we've seen, that company that we've talked about with Wellspring, but there are just other countries that are trying different approaches to it, as well as just different states. They're doing things like UBI and things like that to cover that.